Cloud Imperium games are making absolutely massive changes to Star Citizen ship combat, dogfighting, and engagements with their new master modes. First talked about at CitizenCon 2022, Cloud Imperium have given us some more juicy information on these updates, and we also have some related follow-up questions and dev responses regarding them. So let's start with the recent Star Citizen Live Master Modes, where Cloud Imperium delved a bit deeper into this topic. Master Mode development and iteration is going to remain as part of the Squadron 42 dev branch for quite a while before coming into the persistent universe, as it's a fundamental and sweeping change in gameplay. The plan is to make the choice of engaging in combat much more decisive, reducing ranges of dogfighting combat into smaller windows, and reducing jousting so ships aren't zipping past each other, going as they sort of pass, and that's the norm for combat. They don't want that. No. It's World War II styled dogfights in space. That's what they're aiming for. They also wanted higher times to kill, so they want to avoid, where sensible, one-shotting or insta-kills, and have ships often permanently disabled rather than exploding when destroyed. Lots of attrition-based damage, lots of components getting hit. Where do you sort of show the part of your ship to the other ship as you pass by? Is it going to be the area that's already damaged, or can you just maybe show a more vulnerable area briefly, but it's technically less damaged than another part that's already taken damage? That sort of stuff. You need to make lots of combat decisions and choices. As I said in my previous video on the topic, going over the flight model, master modes, and changes that are coming, which you can check out in the comments below, Death of a Spaceman, with all these sort of new plans and everything coming together, is going to make players much more wary of their mortality and loss. And they want that sort of ingrained in the player. They want loads of variance and customization of ships, their loadouts and playstyle for combat, your loadout, ship position, skill, modules, condition, risk and reward, the enemy, all that sort of jazz will all be factors in choosing whether or not you want to engage in combat, and that will be a deliberate choice. Cloud Imperium have termed the SCM mode combat mode. You have access to all your weapons and shields and sort of utility items you can mine, all that sort of jazz, but you can't go above your SCM speeds or go into quantum travel mode. QCM is now referred to as nav mode. Before it was quantum control mode, now it's nav mode. So you can go into quantum, so you can go incredibly long distances. You can use quantum boost for short distance movement, or cruise above SCM speeds. But you can't use your weapons, you can't use your shields, you can't use your mining lasers and utility items. This is the closest to what Cloud Imperium and Chris Roberts had originally envisioned for dogfighting for the game, but it's still requiring a lot of testing and balance, and it's already been in dev for over a year. There's a lot to iron out here, there's a lot to iterate on, there's a lot to test, and there's a lot to change. So there was also a Spectrum thread follow-up titled Master Mode, where the original poster said, "In my opinion, you should let players test this sooner rather than later. The more I hear about this, the more broken it sounds. Last time there was the new and improved flight model. It has only nerfs and dumb downs, so I'm sorry if I have a hard time just believing that everything will be better, but slowing down the flight model was the first step to this horror show we have today. Slowing down the game will not make it better, just slower. Slow space games have always been boring. You can't fly heroic slow. You can't feel you're pushing your ship when everything feels slow, and even slower in Atmo. Overall, the new flight team have not impressed me at all over the years. They actually nerfed to death the game I loved." So CIG responded to this. Even Evo didn't get a chance to test master modes yet. As we said in the Star Citizen Live, most of the data is currently in the Squadron 42 dev streams, and will be a while until we're further ahead with the downstream dependencies. Another user posted sort of follow-up to this. "It's very disappointing that you guys continually use a single-player, combat-focused offline game as the testbed for a multiplayer, online, multi-role experience. No matter how many years you sink into the Squadron 42 version of Master Modes, then we will have to wait even more years for that to be adapted to the variety of ships in the persistent universe, and adapted gameplay is never as good as purpose-built gameplay. The persistent universe always suffers at the hands of Squadron 42 and backers pay the price. Again, CIG responded, "We originally developed the master modes primarily via internal PvP testing. We moved it into Squadron 42 stream only after we made sure that the combat geometry would be compatible with the persistent universe later." Now, I'm with Cloud Imperium here with their intention for combat. My favourite combat that I had in game was 2.6.3. If anyone remembers that, the sort of heydays of dogfighting in Star Citizen, really enjoyed it then. However, it's changed significantly now, and Cloud Imperium are going, look, we want to slow it down so it's much more like World War II, sort of dogfighting, but with higher times to kill, and we want it to look really awesome when people are fighting. What they're describing now was always the original intent of what Chris Roberts had envisioned, at least as far as I understood it. And on paper, it seems to fix a lot of what I have a problem with combat-wise. However, that does not mean it's necessarily 100% the right choice or whatever. Obviously, Cloud Imperium are going to be looking at it and iterating on it, and people's input matters. So if you've got something you want to say about that, something that you like the idea of, something you're worried about, then get involved with these conversations on Spectrum. Just be civil and try to be concise. There are no right or wrong answers typically from the community, as long as you're trying to get your point across and describe what you like or what you don't like, or get involved with the conversation. Just don't be rude. Understand that other people might have entirely different points of view to you, and they may be incompatible, and that's fine. Can you talk about racers and interceptors that are using sort of combat modes with these master modes, and have you looked at the side effects of the shields and the gimbal weapon changes that you talked about over the last month in regards to racers and interceptors? CIG responded, "The problem with racers is that their role demands very similar properties that dedicated fighters have. Think about a racing ship that is greatly suited for the snake pit. Obviously, that ship can offset its velocity vector very fast. On paper, that is exactly the same requirement that a good dogfighter has, but we definitely want dogfighters to exceed as dogfighters and racers to exceed as racers. Both are somewhat related, but still different ship roles. So in that regard, we're thinking about how to make sure that dedicated racing ships are not just better dogfighters. Given that some racers are very agile as well, we can look at different balance levers to achieve less combat effectiveness, e.g. with smaller weapon capacitors, less offensive capabilities, different thrust capacitor tunings, or simply less durability, which makes probable the most sense because you really don't want to drag a lot of hull plating with you when you want to focus on racing. How far we go with these differences remains to be seen. It is currently a work in progress. We certainly don't want to exclude racing ships from combat or so. We just want to make sure that they are best suited for their intended purpose without invalidating other ships. So the topic is not strictly related to master modes, but given that we need to retune all ships for master mode and the tuning paths for that, we will change certain ship characteristics to make them feel more suited to their intended role and purpose. I hope that makes sense. There was another Spectrum thread, master modes and auto assist, gimbal, fixed and turret. With master modes currently being worked on, will the current assistances that were implemented for the absurdly high speeds be removed or significantly reduced to make combat more challenging? Because I feel combat will be even more of a DPS race if it's too easy to hit your target. I miss gunnery from the days where you had none of those assistances and actually had to hit your target. Will we go back to those days? CIG responded, "Currently there are no plans to change the gimbal modes beyond what was already done with the ongoing aiming updates for Squadron 42, but we will review the amount of necessary aim assists once master modes have been released to the public and we have reliable PvP data available. So it is possible that we will dial back some of the assists, but it's nothing we can tell you about right now." Another thread. Instead of binary switch, why aren't master modes more gradual? Wouldn't it make sense to gradually move from one master mode to another? CIG responded, "We tried gradual switches and they just didn't work for us. It was simply not interesting. Binary swapping the mode is actually quite dramatic if you think about that. The whole configuration of your ship changes. Some ship functions will cease, others will come online. Some ships will transform, sweeping back wings, etc. Lighting, UI, and audio will change as well." Boom! That's it for your Master Mode updates today, but what do you think? Are you excited for this, along with all the new gameplay and features and plans for Star Citizen's combat that is sort of starting to be phased in and come online next year? Or are you sort of concerned and worried about these plans? Do you dislike any of them? How long do you think it will be until these new Master Modes are in our hands? Do you have any follow-up questions? Are you sort of a little bit cautious because Cloud Imperium have changed the flight model and sort of big sweeping changes like this before? Or do you think this sounds like, well, actually this captures what the original intent of what they had planned was? Whatever your thoughts though, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below.
Ho ho ho! Merry Nordmas!
It's Santa!
No, Timmy, it's Father Nordmas. I'm legally distinct and spread NordVPN cheer. Here you go, little Tim. Have some discount on your next NordVPN purchase. Just what you wanted. Go to nordvpn.com/BoredGamer.
But Santa, we don't want a VPN.
I told you, Tim, it's Father Nordmas.
Every month we have a ship giveaway. For December, we are giving away the mighty Drake Corsair Explorer with a Star Citizen game package and lifetime insurance. This no-nonsense Explorer can take you and 3 friends to the limits of adventure around the verse, and although more focused on exploration and expedition, it is a great multi-role mission runner too. Comment on any of my videos during December to be in for a chance of winning that. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Please don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the videos, leave comments, and if you feel so inclined, use the join button under my videos and give a little bit each month to help the channel. It really, really does help. Or you can even become a Patreon or donate. Check out all the links below. Thanks very much for watching. Have a great time in the verse.